Hi, Panda here, and last year we did a video about Marvel Avengers for the Xbox One. Now, a year later, we're taking a look at Marvel Avengers again to see what's changed. We're focused on the single player and the co-op aspect of the game. So if you want to check out our previous video, look at the link in the description below so you can see how we thought about the game last year, and here's what we think about the game this year. Let's find out. First up, let's talk about gameplay. So we're talking about the single player and co-op in this video, and we'll leave multiplayer to a different video. So in the single player game, there's some very awesome scripted single player modes. They actually remind me a lot of the Crystal Dynamics recent Tomb Raider games, Tomb Raider reboot and the Rise of the Tomb Raider. So those moments are really good. They feel awesome, they're like scripted, it has like a good flow. Now the other good thing about missions in this game is that some of the missions you can choose some AI heroes to join you, or even invite your friends. So there might be a mission where you get one extra hero, or there might be 4 heroes, but you get to choose which one of the AI heroes that you bring along. That also links into you get to choose what hero you play as well. There's skills and upgrades in this game, loads of chance to unlock new abilities, and a good sense of progression. There's a lot of different skills, like your light, your heavy, your specials, and there's a good like skill tree. So if you're really into this game and you like collecting loot and leveling up and unlocking different skills, you can really customize your character to what sort of skills you want to focus on. There's also a Destiny 2 style hub, so there's a few different areas in the game that unlocks like this mini hub world with like vendors who sell things and other characters you talk to do side missions. Definitely has that Destiny 2 tower feeling, but it doesn't have other players walking around at the same time as you might expect. So some games, like I've been recently playing Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, when you go into the hub world, you see other players walking about. But you don't get that here, but there are plenty of other heroes to talk to. Now, the non-flying characters like Hulk and Kamala are fun to play. Now, I don't want to give any spoilers where other characters come up, but I found the flying characters a little bit trickier to use. So, but it depends on your preference. Another thing I liked in this, playing the single player, you can pause the gameplay. Now that may sound simple, but you wouldn't believe how many single player games I've come across lately where you can't even pause, and it's a single player game. You're like, why won't you let me pause this game? So that's good. So another good thing is having missions with 4 heroes can be really fun to see all the heroes on screen. It feels like you're playing like an Avengers game. But unfortunately that comes with a downside, that those mission designs tend to be a bit more dull. They're more like these open areas. They're not very interesting locations, and it's just like, whoa, destroy all the enemies or destroy this. It just doesn't have that good flow like I was talking about, the single player scripted moments earlier. But there are some 1 or 2 missions with all 4 heroes that actually do stick out in my mind, but unfortunately they're later on in the game, so I don't want to talk much about that. Now, the downside to the gameplay, the long load times. The load times in this game are ridiculous. Now, I'll give you an example. I've been playing Animal Crossing New Horizons on the Switch. Now, I set my game to load on Marvel Avengers. I pressed A, I wait for the other screens to go through. While it was loading, and I kept making sure I pressed the A button so it would skip through whatever other menus. For me to actually get in to choose a mission, this was even before I started mission, I managed to load Animal Crossing up, choose my profile, talk to Isabel. I went to Nook's Cranny, bought, because at the moment it's Halloween, so I bought some candy. And I even went to the Able Sisters to buy some new clothes by the time Marvel Avengers had actually loaded up. Now, I know they're both different very games, but you can imagine, if you've played Animal Crossing, how long it takes to do those things and how long it takes to do Marvel's Avengers to load up. So I feel like if you want to jump up and play, forget about it. Make sure you've set some time if you want to play this game. The other thing is late combat tutorial. For some reason, I'd played a good chunk of this game, then it gave me the harm room where you can train your different characters and learn the skills and abilities, and it was teaching me like, oh, if you do this and that, and I'm going, this would have been good 2 hours ago. So you have to go through lots of the game, you kind of hit your head against the wall where you're like, oh, I'm not sure how to do this unless you look online. And then it gives you the combat tutorial. It just feels a bit out of place. Like, I was still confused, like that should have been really early on. It does teach you some stuff early on, but not some of the techniques that are really useful in combat. Now, the skill and upgrades page is over convoluted. There's far too many resources. This is one of those games, instead of just having 1 or 2 resources, there's like 7 or more. I'll show it on screen, and there's too many. The same with the upgrades page, there's so much going on. Like, this takes a while to get used to, and you kind of just jumped in not knowing that you can upgrade certain items and that. And some of the other stuff still hasn't really unlocked, even after finishing a single player game, so I'll have to find out more for that for the next video. Some of the combat feels a bit awkward. Like, I enjoy the combat, but whereas if you played like any of the Arkham Asylum series games, you know it's snappy and it's smooth. Well, this feels like clunky, and sometimes like even the lock-on doesn't work really well and you can't even see who you're combating. But saying that, the melee feels a lot better than the shooting. The shooting in this feels awkward and quite shaky as well. So I really enjoy playing Black Widow, but her using the guns, it's really not, it's not pleasant. There's some frustrating difficulty spikes, like there'll be just sections where they throw too many enemies on screen and then you suddenly die and you don't even know why. And a few sections I did that and I played it and I got through really quickly. So it was a bit confusing, like I was like, what killed me last time then? So it's the same with the health thing, go to find health crates, or sometimes enemies drop health, so it's a bit confusing. Iron Man is bad to control. Any of the characters like Hover or Fly feel really awkward, which is a shame because you'd want Iron Man to be really cool. Now there was one mission, I won't go into any details about the mission, where you flew Iron Man and he was like shooting turrets and stuff that felt something so close to Star Fox. It felt good. It wasn't quite Star Fox level, but it felt pretty cool. But that was like only a little bit in the game, and I was disappointed there wasn't more sequences like that because that actually worked really well. And last for the gameplay, elevators. Yes, there are sections where you all get in an elevator, which is weird to see Hulk in an elevator, and straight away gave him Mass Effect flashbacks. It wasn't as bad as Mass Effect, but standing in the elevator waiting for the next bit to load up with 4 powerful superheroes felt a little bit strange and out of place. Next we're going to talk about graphics and art direction. Now there's some really cool looking environments. It gave me the Tomb Raider vibes. They're awesome, like canyons and stuff to run through. You're jumping, swinging from trees, climbing up walls. And they just look great, and especially when there's like an action sequence, it's like things blowing up and you know you've got to run for your life type of feeling. But also that's marred by some bunch of dull scientific lab environments, just boring grey corridors with glass windows or something, and they just look really dull. There's not much to describe about them, just dull. So there's some really other cool environments in the game, but it's like half and half. Here's some cool environments mixed with some really dull environments. That also goes along with the fact that some sections look really impressive, like graphics wise. The graphics look great, but then it also jumps straight to looking blurry. I think this depends on what environment you're in and how many enemies on screen. I think the resolution or something, it just looks off, so that takes a dip, and that isn't helped by generic enemies. There's just so many like robot type enemies that you get a bit bored after hitting all these metal heads. You're just like, man, this isn't very exciting. They're not very exciting designed robots. They just feel very generic, which is a shame because there's some very cool boss fights, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but like the last boss looks really cool in the first episode. So there are some moments, and I'm hoping in the future expansions that are free to play as well, yeah, they make it better. They do some better designs for enemies, because if they keep on just putting these generic robots for every episode that comes out, I'm gonna get a little bit bored or annoyed. The hero designs as well aren't the best. They're not the designs that you've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're all over the place. They're mainly unrememberable. I'm not saying they're awful, but they're just not memorable. They're not like, that's a cool Tony Stark or that's a cool Captain America. They're just a bit whatever. But I will give them credit here. They're not as bad as Star-Lord in Square Enix's new Guardians of the Galaxy game, who looks awful. So I'm glad they haven't gone that far down that route, but there's plenty of other costumes you can get, and you can mix up as well, but we'll get into a little bit more of that later on. Next is the music. Now the music does the job, but it's not very memorable like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's no great tunes or memorable music sections. It kind of just fits to the action, but that's about it. And there's no like great tunes that you would find in the films or the cartoons. Now, what is good about the audio is that some of the weapons, like Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield, have like a really good weight to the sound. They sound like they're heavy and they can do some good damage. Also, the dialogue is hit and miss, but I didn't mind. And the in-game banter between the heroes is actually quite good and suits the mood and the moment. So overall, some missions let you choose your hero. That's really cool. Playing as your favorite hero is always going to be a great feeling, especially when they've done the hero you like really well. So I'm like a big fan of like the Hulk and Captain America and Black Widow. In this game, I'm not usually a Black Widow fan, but this game I felt like Black Widow had some cool abilities. I also like how the story's not linked or covered in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it's nice to have a fresh new story that we haven't seen on film. That is of 2021, like anything could happen, you never know, maybe they'll use the plot from this game in a future film, you just don't know. Also, what I liked is that you no need to grind to finish the story. I pretty much got through all the story missions without really having to do any side missions, and that was really nice because I kind of just wanted to see the story. I've not wasted time on generic missions. It's like, just go here and destroy however many robots. Now, one of the downsides, but you don't have to do it, so I know some people will be like, well, you don't have to buy it, is the overpriced microtransactions. The fact you have to buy this game in the first place, I appreciate they make all the new story stuff, and this is my main complaint about a lot of games. I don't quite understand why costumes cost as much as they do. Like, there's some costumes in this game, and I'm like, looking at the price, like I haven't calculated the exact amount, but they're probably like 15 British pounds, and that seems really steep for a costume, for the fact you've already paid for the game. Like, I understand doing costumes, and like I said, this is my criticism of some other games. I'm never quite sure why costumes need to be that much. I'm sure they can make loads of money even if they charge less doing. They're just like a visual change or appearance. It seems steep. I maybe understand a little bit more for free-to-play games, because you're like, well, you haven't paid any money towards this game, but the fact you've paid for this game to start with, yes, they're adding more story stuff for free, but that seems really expensive for costumes. Do you mean? I'm just like, really? Do you really need that? It just feels like, it just feels icky. And they recently added, and hopefully maybe they've taken it out by the time this video is posted, added some microtransactions to buy power boost to like level up your character or earn more experience quicker, and that just feels icky, so that's not great. So, but overall, if you just want a single player game, yeah, there's some fun here, and yes, they've added some more expansions, so maybe the single player story in that is fun. So now there's 4 of them, with them just adding the War for Wakanda recently. I feel like you'll get your money's worth at the single player. If it's repetitive, I don't know yet, so I'll have to play those ones. The first one, if I was going to say, should you get this game based on the first episode, maybe if you found it for a bargain. I wouldn't pay full price. So overall feelings is that it's fun, but it's a tad repetitive, but with a few highlights. Now, thank you for watching. I've been Panda. You can like and subscribe. We appreciate everyone that does. And you can follow us in the rest of the places you look in the links below. And thank you to our patrons, and we'll see you next time.